So one of the fun things about recording podcasts is you're never doing them real time. Well, occasionally we do them like a week before, a couple days before.
Yeah.
But you're planning out like 3 to 6 weeks. And so you're like, man, is Christmas really that close? Yes, it is. We have to record a Christmas episode. And I was looking for my Santa hat, could not find it. My middle schooler has been begging for a Santa hat, and Andrew got one for him the other day. And so he's been very happy. He wore it to school today. And, this reminded me, we have to do our Christmas episode because it's that time of year.
There we go.
And, this week I'm still working. When this publishes, I will still be at my desk working. We're not traveling this week. We're going to be staying home. My mom will be coming out for the week, and then we'll be just bumming around. I'm sure the kids will be upstairs trying to get into fights with each other as they all get stir crazy, and somebody's going to yell, "Go outside!" And we won't see them for like 6 hours.
There you go. Those are the fun days. Just go outside and find something to do.
Yeah, that's what Elijah's good at doing. Like, my youngest is really good at just going outside and spending time at the park and just doing shenanigans. Like, kind of starts working on like he came back and got his Orbeez gun, and he's going to get in a big Orbeez fight with some friends. And I was like, just make sure you don't like shoot people that don't want to be shot.
There you go. Yeah.
And
those are really fun times. Yeah.
I'm sure they're doing lots of things I don't approve of, but that's part of being free.
Yeah.
So anyways, like this week is Christmas. Like what all are people's plans on Christmas? Like, what do you do to kind of balance work and having this kind of mandatory break every year? I think we've talked about mandatory breaks being healthy for businesses, just for checking for redundancies, looking for making sure people are doing good mental health. For me, usually on Christmas, when I worked in the corporate world, I took off this whole week until New Year's. I just checked out mentally. And it's always really good for me. This year, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of balancing mentally. So I'm coming up to Christmas season, like, I'll take a day or two off, and I'll still come down to my office and work, but it'll be more of, I've planned in some activities like that I can do without talking to customers. So I was talking to the team about how I'm going to be doing a lot of HubSpot activities, making sure cleaning that up, getting our sales process going for the new year, and like doing our email sequences to make sure people get their reminders to sign up or to do an activity. And that way it improves the experience without spamming everyone.
Yes.
Well, but I'll also be drinking a lot of eggnog because I love eggnog. Gaining weight.
Yeah.
And by the way, my tip for anybody who makes their own eggnog is rum is great, brandy is better.
Oh, okay.
And brandy's cheaper too. So you get the VSOP brandy, Canadian, whatever you can find. It's like $10 to $12 for a bottle of it. And mix, do half rum, half brandy in your eggnog. It gives it a little bit of a sweeter finish. It's nice. That's my tip for everyone who needs to have that eggnog over Christmas.
Not many people in my family, well, I don't guess anybody in my family likes eggnog except for me. And I just do the non-alcoholic, but since no one else is drinking it, I find myself, I just drink straight out of the jug.
I like to have a little nutmeg on there and in a cup, because basically, for those of you who don't cook, eggnog is a liquid ice cream.
Yes,
that's all it is.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And which just makes me wonder, like, why don't people like it? Is it a texture thing? Because everybody loves ice cream.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I see an eggnog flavored ice cream. I'm like, wait a minute. That does make a good point in the IT field. Every once in a while, some technology comes out, something like that, and they're like, "Oh, this is now Wi-Fi." I remember when Wi-Fi came out, and be like, "What's Wi-Fi?"
I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out. Oh, it's 802.11.
Yes.
And so I wonder how many chefs are out there like this new fad hits, and people are like, "You're going to do this thing where you're going to make this and this and this." You're like, "That's called blanching."
Yeah,
we've been doing that since no one knows because we've always done it.
Yep.
And then some YouTuber says, "Let me show you a really quick, weird trick on how to skin an apple."
Yeah. I've saw something like that there, and it's like, that's just pointless and expensive. Why would you do that? This is an interesting time of year, I think, for IT. And I know personally, I don't disconnect much during the year. I may take off, I work half days sometimes, but it seems like I'm always there. Whether I'm responding or not, I'm always checking messages, always checking on statuses of things. And it's kind of always running in the back of my mind. But this is the one time of year, because the external noises, I guess, do tend to die down a bit. And I find myself surprised sometimes at kind of the digital silence. And sometimes it takes me a couple of days to kind of, realize that, oh, no, I don't have to go and check messages. No, I don't have to go. My phone's not set to silent. There's nothing beeping because nothing's coming through right now. And it's just been a really odd switch sometimes. So as I finally realized that, I try to lean into it sooner rather than later, because it is a good refresher, a good disconnect, to kind of just refocus on things outside of work and technology. And there's a whole world out there that sometimes I think we forget about.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of I try to stay always on, right? So I remember in college, I had this professor, shout out to Russell Mosman, wherever you are today. I think he's in Omaha.
Yeah.
The guy never slept, I swear. All the students are trying to figure out how he did it. We know if he ran some Perl scripts and that auto respond to students. I think his saying was he'll answer questions any time of day, but after midnight, he won't guarantee answers being correct.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I always thought that was a good thing. So I have at least when I was an engineer, if you so much as buzzed my phone at 2 a.m., I answered.
Yeah.
Except for when I switched to iPhone. I could not figure out how the silence option worked on an iPhone. I got big trouble for that because I just got my new phone and I did not figure out how the silence worked on it. And I slept through an entire on-call shift. And I was like, crap.
Oh.
And I got chewed out for that. I'm like, you're going to chew me out for this? I've been on call for 2 years now, and I've never missed an on-call.
Yeah.
My backup on call never answers, and I don't think you care. But anyways, I try to always be available. If somebody messages me on Slack, my phone buzzes. When maybe I got alert fatigue, but Discord is I'm still working on Discord alerting me properly.
Yeah.
I don't get the notifications on Discord because, for those of you who don't know, we're starting a Discord channel, not for support, but just for community building.
Yeah.
I know there's a big thread over on Tom Lawrence right now. Why is Discord great? It's not a forum replacement. No, but it's a great way to communicate.
It is.
And the Slack notifications, Slack is nice, but the threading is awful on it. I just cannot make heads. I lose more conversations with how they thread things than anything else. And I'm sure there's probably some setting I'm missing. But in Discord, I feel like it works really well. I can just kind of pop in and out of different channels, and then we can have people join our Discord and they can see our public channels, but not our private ones. And that's a really great experience for all of you out there who want just to have some advice on account management or VCIO best practices.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with this,
Discord.
But I try to always be available by one of these areas, and that I want people to be able to message me, and I'll choose what I want to respond, but I want to be aware.
Yes.
And that's always been my healthy habit.
Yeah.
And that's why I go to the mountains where there's dead zones.
Well, I don't know if there's really a point to it, but you made me think of a story that I just have to tell. I get to tell my wife, and she's kind of proud of this one too. But you speak of being on call. There was a time in my career where I got to honestly tell people that I don't call 911. 911 calls me. And I was supporting a brand new digital 911 center. We went all to the, computer-aided dispatch, and it was a really fun time. And they did 911 definitely rang me during emergencies, but they got a little, I don't know, too liberal with, the calls sometimes. And of course, it being a, call center such as 911, they're 24 hours a day. And they had one guy who worked at night, and he loved it. He wouldn't change shifts ever. But he kind of lost touch of the fact that people outside of, 911 don't work the way he does. And so he would call me frequently in the middle of the night to ask random questions. And he called one night, and my wife answered the phone. Back in the days of, landline phones, and so we had one next to the bed. And she answered the phone, and I never remember. I always remember this. She knew me by name now as well, and she went, "Stephen, is this really necessary right now?" And I could hear the response of, "No, ma'am." And she said, "Thanks," and hung up.
That's funny.
So, I guess we all have our on-call stories, and that one's my favorite. My wife took it.
Yeah. There's times where you get called and you have your phone next to your ear or next to your bed or whatever it is, and it scares the crap out of you. You're like in a deep sleep, and it hits, and you're like, "Whoa!" And over the holidays, somebody has to take call, right? There's going to be outages, and if you're the engineer, I always had engineers who preferred to take call on holidays.
Yeah.
For various reasons. Some because the money was double. Some because they wanted an excuse.
Uh-huh.
And so, people were always swapping around on calls for those purposes. And I just wanted to make sure that people knew, like, when I was an engineer, like, I'm here for you. And people were always very respectful of my phone and my on-call status. And one time I remember telling people, like, look, if you call me at 2 a.m., I will answer.
Yeah.
And my friends knew this about me. Like, if you call me at 2 a.m., I will answer that phone.
Yes.
And one day, my pastor was flying home, and their van broke down like 70 miles away. Yeah. And I was like, "When do you want picked up?"
There you go.
Like, he's like, "I knew you had told me multiple times that you will answer the phone at any given time." I'm like, "And I do."
Yep.
And I'm that reliable person. I even tell my kids in youth group, like, if you're ever in trouble, call. Here's my phone number, direct line.
Mm-hmm.
I will answer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today it's a little harder because I get so many calls that I have a robo filter on my phone.
Yes.
So unless you're whitelisted, I won't pick up.
Yeah.
Like it'll go right to voicemail because there's so many spammers out there who will spoof the zip code or spoof the area code, so it looks like it's local, but it's like, "Hey, are you selling your house right now?" Like, "No, leave me alone."
Well, I got one of those one time, and it came from a tiny, tiny little town in southwestern Texas. And for me, growing up in that general area, I knew it. And I knew before I answered the call that it was going to be that way. But I took one of those opportunities to just drag them out. I pulled out my old Western accent. And I was like, "Hey, man, well, I guess you probably know my friend's got a buddy down there, and his mom and dad, they got a house in that area." And I just, finally the guy hung up on me because I just drug him out too far. So those are fun sometimes to play with. Maybe you'll have that opportunity this time to take one of those calls and
Skip,
just go nuts with it.
I'm way over that.
Oh, yeah?
My Robo Killer, or those of you out there who want to try a service, it's not perfect, but you can select a personality or a series of personalities, and they will drag on the call for like 10 minutes.
I love those.
It's an automated one. Like, "I can't hear you very well. Like, can you speak louder?" And then the dead silence for like 10, 15 seconds. And then like, "What was that again? You said you were from Nevada?" Like, and you could pick different personalities. Yeah. And like one of them I have is guy on toilet.
Oh, there we go.
I figure, if anything, like a couple of my friends who worked in call centers were like, "You know what? I'd appreciate if you did that." Because then I could just hang on the call, and I don't have to call another person. I could say I did a 5-minute call.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And I'd be entertained the whole time.
Yeah, you can enjoy your snack without having to worry. My wife had to make a support call one night a few nights ago, and it was kind of late. And the guy did great and helped through the little technical issue. I could tell though that he was eating, all right, and I could tell because I've been in his position before, and so he missed it one time, just one time, but it gave the whole thing away. She would, he would give her instructions, and so she would, do these steps, and at the end she'd go, okay, I've done this, and there was that little pause before he came back and it told her the next step, and I could tell he was putting her on mute, and one time, right as he came off mute, I can hear him kind of clearing his mouth before he said anything, and like, he's eating right now.
Yeah,
but I didn't fault him at all. He did a great job, and sometimes you just it's the timing. You just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, so like that's kind of this Christmas episode, right? We're talking through like our experiences, and a lot of you have great experiences of being on call during the holidays and how you get through them. Feel free to share them below. Yep. We love the conversations. We know you guys are all out there watching. Like I see the stats on these podcasts. We have thousands of people, like MSPs, listening to this, and you guys are all like the least chatty people ever. Yeah. So tell your stories below, because I have some great stories on being on call, about being in outages. I remember one time getting a call and being like, you're dead asleep, and I went from being dead asleep to you're gonna have to drive 2.5 hours to this site, this data center, and get things fixed up. We need hands to back asleep in like 20 minutes. I said like, no, we found a back door into the blah, 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 and we were able to do all this stuff. Like, geez, like, you're getting up. Hey, we got an outage. We think somebody needs to drive out there. You're the engineer we trust. And they, you're putting on your shoes, your pants. You're like, okay, you're resigned to, you're going to go drive. And, and then by the time you get your dress, you're like, okay, we found a way in. We got the system back up. We'll call you if you need anything more. Like, okay.
Well, kind of back to my earlier comments on that. That for decades, that was my life. And I don't, it didn't bother me. All right. When I first started, I got thrown in that mix very early in my career, and I just assumed that's the way it was, and I didn't really question it. So it didn't bother me. And years later, I realized that not everybody appreciates that perspective. But now, as you again roll into these holiday seasons, you might find yourself not needing to, make sure the phone is not on silent and within arm's reach next to you, or you might get those times where you can actually sleep all night long without having to wake up and check messages or, wonder what's going on. So, I encourage you to lean into those and really kind of embrace that. Yes, we're probably kind of wrapping this up, so I want to kind of throw this out to our service members. So I've got 2 boys in the Army, and one's making it home for the holidays, and one won't be. He's kind of new with his station, and so the whole requesting leave thing and timing wise is just not going to work out. So he's going to be sitting on base, doing whatever they do when no one else is there. But there's a lot of great guys out there and women serving us in our military, and I want to say Merry Christmas to those guys.
Oh, that's awesome. What do they call those new guys? Plebes? Is that
I don't. They've got too many terms. I think more often than not, it might not be appropriate for
appropriate for a podcast. I'll tell Mark, not safe for children. I'll
change the rating to this one.
Yeah, I mean, so for like Christmas episodes, we always talk about like, do we need a topic for this one? And so I should have put a disclaimer at the beginning of this episode saying we are going to hit nothing. We're going to Seinfeld this episode up, just because sometimes you just need a break. Like the Christmas week is a little chaotic. I particularly like during Christmas breaks, all the way to New Year's, it's dead. I don't get interrupted a lot. You'll have some end of the year sales, even in corporate world, you have a couple things you're trying to sneak in before 12/31 to get it on this year's budget. But mostly I try to use this for testing new things. Getting something prepared for January so I can launch January with a running start. And so I know there's a couple of our prospects out there that are starting trials, and they're like, we're going to spend time playing with it over the holiday, and then that way in January we can kick off the year. That's what you should be thinking about right now. It's like, and that will de-stress you as well. We talked about that last week, I think, in our community update. Is that when you have a plan, you have less stress. So use the holiday season to like do that thing that you've been avoiding, so it's ready to go in January, and you can actually relax through the holiday. Make sure you're taking care of your employees. Some of them don't want to be on call. Some of them don't want to work because they have really good families or they have really good plans. Others need to get away from their family and need an excuse. So like, hey, team, does anybody need something to do on Christmas work related? And just throw it out there. And be like, you'll see one person like raise their hand, like, if I could kick off a project around 10 a.m. on Christmas morning, that would really, really make me feel better. And so you got to be aware, like, Christmas is stressful for some people. And sometimes it's somebody who lost a parent or lost a family member this year, and Christmas is going to be really hard for them. And sometimes they need the distraction. Now, sometimes it's just that their house is a mess and it's really stressful. The in-laws are coming over. That bratty nephew and niece are going to be there, like tearing things up. And if they could walk out and be sitting by themselves, upgrading a server during that time, they will be the most loyal employee ever. So adapt to your employees is my final message here. Think through how their on-call schedule is going to work. Use this time to really empathize with your employees and help them through the holidays, use the time to kind of reminisce about what on-call is like, what holiday schedules are like, and kind of use it for a bonding with your teams. You could ask that in a team meeting, saying like, hey, we got some great on-call stories for holidays, and swap stories just like Skip and I did. And it's great team building. That's a great way to empathize, and so people don't think they're alone. And if they do get a crappy call during the holidays, they'd be like, oh, it's my turn for my story.
That's it.
All right, Skip, thanks for coming on. Next week will be the last episode of the year. And so we're going to do our annual crystal ball episode. This is a quartz crystal ball.
Well, there we go.
And what we're going to talk through is, what do we think 2025 will look like? If any of you MSPs have some great insights, we'd be happy to have you on as a guest. And so you'll have to message me or put some comments below here. And it's great publicity for any MSP who wants to join. We do a lot of reels. We do a lot of media, so it does help your company. But you need to come prepared with some great insights for 2025. What do you think it's going to entail? I have some very strong predictions for 2025, and I don't usually get too far off. You can check our Skip and I's previous years for crystal ball episodes. We're usually not too far off. But we also keep it pretty general.
There you go.
All right.
Merry
See
Christmas,
you all,
everyone.
and have a Merry Christmas.
Hoorah.